I am DM Zone. This is Gamer's Oasis. Let's get into it. Okay, guys, so we're going to talk about the spell Levitate. This spell is one of the more unusual spells probably in the list because it only has really two stats. It has duration and it has range. Technically, there's some movement involved in there, but I'll get into what that means and actually how slow that is in a second. So it might surprise you this spell didn't come out in the original 3 core rulebooks. It came out in Supplement 1 Greyhawk. That meant that it was not out when the game first came out. As I have said in several other videos, the old original Dungeons & Dragons spells tend to hold a certain amount of charm because of their power. This spell both has that and then really shows how limiting it is. At the same time, it's also very confusing when you look at the range statistic, but I'll get to that in just 1 second. So one of the things that makes it so powerful is the fact that you can raise yourself an inch off the ground, use your staff to push yourself around like you're a canoe in a canal, like around Venice or something like that, basically navigating the dungeon, never actually touching anything, essentially making yourself immune to pit traps and a lot of floor-based activated things, especially if you had a longer than a staff, like maybe a 10-foot pole, to push yourself around the dungeon. Now, the actual spell says you can float up to the top and use your hands to navigate by walking on the ceiling. But you could do this with a staff too. Now let's go ahead and talk about the speed real quick and then we'll jump into the rest of why this spell is confusing. So it says that you raise 6 inches or 60 feet over a turn, which is actually 10 minutes. So if you break that down to a minute, that's 6 feet a minute. So in a combat round, that's like 8 inches. You're not getting out of trouble fast enough to really get away from this thing. You're basically facing a problem. You're going to get killed unless you're already high up. But the good news is if the ceiling's high enough, you can actually be above any sort of melee combatant, and they'd have to use range to go after you with that spell. That's a lot of power. If the ceiling is really high, you could actually be outside of most things. If you were to have a pit trap, you could literally float across the pit trap and not have any problems. So now we're going to talk about range. Why does it have range and what does that mean? The duration is one of the biggest powerful parts. It lasts for 6 turns plus a turn per level. So this will last the entirety of the dungeon. The fact that one can have this spell going and it has a range doesn't make sense. You're never moving away from the origin of the spell. It doesn't have anything that says you're tied to this location. It literally says you can move. It has such a long duration. What is it saying? I personally believe, because it doesn't say this anywhere in there, that you can cast this on other objects or people. Now, if it's a person or a thing with intelligence, they can resist this, preventing the spell from affecting them, or they can end the spell with a magic save. If they make their save, they prevent the spell from affecting them. However, you could use this to navigate going over a pit. You could cast this on your guy in full plate and have him cross a river. As long as you stay within range, you're never going to have this spell end, though it could end abruptly if you go outside of range. I think that is where the power is with this type of thing. Okay, guys, hot take real quick. What if I were to cast that on my enemy and he fails to save? Now he's sitting there levitating 1 inch off the ground or 8 inches off of the ground and he can't get away. He can't move. He can't pursue. He can't chase. What if that person is an important part of the leadership? What if you did that to a door and you levitated the door above and then you just end the spell and it drops? Interesting things. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Did I get it wrong? Did I get it right? I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Keep rolling those dice. Bye.